Russia and China are furious that Trump is threatening to buy Greenland.
This guy is basically just lies all the time, and he's just a propaganda account for NATO. Basically, this move Trump is doing is actually quite good for Bitcoin and for gold and for some European stocks. Let me explain to you the reason why and why this Geo Hussar guy has been lying to you all along. See, Trump says he's going to use force to take Greenland, Panama Canal, and then economic force to take back Canada. You've heard all about it, right? And these NATO propaganda accounts like this Geo Hussar guy tells you that America is doing this great expansion. They're going to take Greenland, and that's really bad for China and Russia, right? Even Donald J. Trump is tweeting about this himself. They're building this grand, great North America. And yes, partly true. Partly true. If they take Greenland, that cuts off the trade routes of China and Russia, and that's bad for them. But what he doesn't tell you is that this expansion in North America just means US is actually doing a strategic retreat from the rest of the world. That's right, I'll say it again, a retreat, strategic retreat from the rest of the world. Guess what Trump's trying to do? Basically build a fortress around America, right? Because Russia is right there if you look from the Arctic, right? I know this is a map that you guys don't normally look at, but look, Denmark protects US and Canada, right? Alaska against Russia. And US protects itself, right? If they also take some sort of Mexico and Panama Canal. And then to the east and the west are the two Pacific Oceans and Atlantic Oceans. So US will never, right, be touched. US will be 100% safe. But that just means US is doing a strategic retreat from the rest of the world. It's no longer going to be the world police. It doesn't care about Europe anymore. It's going to leave Asia. It's going to leave Africa. You know the 1,000 plus US military bases that Trump complains about all the time? Well, they're all going to be withdrawn back home to protect Super America now. Trump's whole campaign is to reduce the number of military bases overseas, such as in Germany, so he can reduce the military, cut spending, and he's going to reduce the number of military bases in Europe and in Japan as well, withdraw from Asia, withdraw from Europe. The only place he probably won't touch is he's going to leave Israel with a lot of protection. The logic is very simple because think about it. If US does take over Greenland and Panama Canal and maybe even Canada, then look how much more military spending it has to use to protect this large area. Greenland is that big, and then protect all of Canada, right? Station troops, ships, airfields, and then Panama Canal, and then Mexico, and all of that, plus the 1,000 plus military bases that are already around the world. How's America going to come up with all that money? Obviously, Trump is trying to do a strategic retreat from the rest of the world so he can protect, right, US, because he's building a fortress all around the US, the north, south, east, west. That's like all I've already explained. And why is that great for Bitcoin and gold and some European stocks? That's because Trump is obviously pulling the troops back from Europe to protect USA mainland or North America. So therefore, of course, countries like France, Germany, all of Europe are up in arms because where does Greenland belong to? It belongs to Denmark. And Denmark is a core founding member of NATO. NATO is now in trouble because the country that's supposed to protect NATO, right, it's trying to take a large piece of land that's a very large piece of land from NATO. So therefore, US is no longer the security blanket for Europe. France and Germany are going to have to rely on their own, right, weapons and securities companies. So we're talking like Airbus. They make the Typhoon fighters for Europe, for NATO. Like, for example, Rolls-Royce. Yes, they produce nice cars, but they also make the engine, right, for Airbus and for those air fighters, right? So companies, defense stocks like that in Europe are going to take off because they can't just buy from Lockheed Martin, these US defense companies anymore. And why is this great for Bitcoin and gold? Well, that's because US basically is the world policeman right now, right? They've got 1,000 plus military bases stationed everywhere in almost every country except China and Russia and France, right? These are the countries that have nukes, so not those three countries. And if US was to withdraw most of those military bases because they want to cut spending, cut costs, and go back to defend mostly just North America, build a fortress around America, then that means basically US dollar is no longer the world reserve currency, because if there's no US military to defend the sovereignty, the greatness that is the US dollar around the world, right, then US dollar in the next 5 years or so, I would say, would lose its world reserve currency status, and it would only be a major currency, reserve currency of North America, or the North and South American continents, but no longer the world currency. So what does that mean for Bitcoin, right? And gold? If these two things, Bitcoin and gold, are priced in US dollars, and US dollar is no longer as important as it used to be, then people pile into, right, gold especially, and probably into Bitcoin, because then US dollar goes down and Bitcoin goes up and gold goes up. I'm more of an investor in gold, right? Bitcoin, I'm not sure it's going to work that well in a geopolitical climate this unstable, but you never know, right? Keep an open mind, not financial advice.